I've been running a small business for 5 years, hand making all of my items by myself. There's so much that I have learned and I am so ready to share it with you. So let's jump into 3 things I wish I would have changed right from the very start of my small business that I think you should implement if you're going to start a handmade business in 2026 to make your growth exponentially better and exponentially smoother. Some mistakes you make at the beginning of your small business may be really easy to fix, and some are going to be a lot harder. The ones that are so much harder to fix have a lot to do with how you are setting up the back end of your business than with like the physical product side. So that's kind of where I'm going to focus today, is a couple tips for setting up the most efficient, the most helpful, and the most practical back end of your business. If you are just starting out in your handmade journey, my name is Nicole, a micro business owner based in Minnesota. I hand make book sleeves, tote bags. I just brought a beautiful 10 needle embroidery machine and I'm starting that as well. And I have been so successful doing this and I love it. I adore it. I'm also a mom of 2. I work a 9 to 5 and I am running this business alongside all of that. So a lot of my content focuses on how to manage all of that and a lot of business tips as well. So we're covering 3 things mainly today. First is where I would sell from day one. It's not just Etsy. You need more than Etsy. As an Etsy seller and an Etsy lover, you need more than Etsy. Second is going to be how I would handle my bookkeeping and the finances from the very start as someone who royally messed it up from the very start. Please heed my advice here. And then third, my business name. I love my business. I don't love my business name. We'll chat a little bit about that too. I also want to be totally upfront that these are 3 things I am currently in the process of changing. So I am experiencing the pain of these mistakes in real time, and I think that's why it's so top of mind. So if you have questions about any of this or changes you should make to make this go smoother in the future, hit me up in the comments. I'm happy to chat. So let's jump into the first big thing I would have changed, and that would have been starting a Shopify site at the exact same time that I started on Etsy. I would not have focused on Shopify first, but it would have existed. As someone who was primarily on Etsy for 4 years and is now transitioning into Shopify, I've had Shopify for about 8 months at this point, I wish I would have done it sooner. I now have hundreds of listings on Etsy, and trying to transition them all to a Shopify site has been a pain, a royal pain. Also, you don't own Etsy. Etsy is a lovely platform. I adore Etsy. I have made $30,000-$40,000 a year selling on Etsy alone. Okay, it is worth being on Etsy. But they also have their own issues. They tend to close shops and not communicate why. They will change their algorithms and change how your listings are showing up. And again, not really communicate why. On Shopify, you own it. So Etsy is the perfect place for growing and starting a business because they bring you your traffic. Okay, I am not a social media person. I hate posting on social media. Etsy brings all of the traffic to my shop on their own, just because of how well my shop has done in the past, because of SEO, because of photography. They take care of the marketing of my business basically. So it is so worth being there. But having Shopify gives me a place with lower fees, where I own the email list, where I own the design, where I own everything that I can now direct people to off of Etsy. So Etsy pulls in customers for me. I then work after they've completed a purchase through Etsy to try to convince them to go to Shopify, my Shopify site, for any future orders. So you cannot on Etsy, if someone like messages you, say, hey, don't shop on Etsy, shop on my Shopify site. No, that's a big no-no. That'll get your Etsy shop banned. But in my packaging, I include information about how I also have a Shopify site, which is just mybusinessname.com. That is where I want people to shop. That is where my social media profiles do link because that has a lower fee range and has an email list that I own. So I can communicate with them. On Etsy, you don't get customers' email addresses. Some of it's really frustrating. But it is definitely worth being there, especially for a business owner who doesn't want to do a lot of social media, who doesn't have like a lot of business knowledge. Etsy is an absolutely beautiful place to start. However, also start the Shopify. All right, the second big thing is going to be your bookkeeping. Holy heck, do I hate numbers, okay? I am a creative person. I am meant to be in here working with the fabrics and making the things. I am not meant to do math. I am not supposed to do math, and I wish from the beginning I would have, one, hired someone to do my taxes, my personal and my business taxes. I would have done more research on an accountant, and I would have put more thought into the accounting software and programs I use. So I did hire an accountant when my business first started. We had like 2 sessions, and then she was basically like, great, go off, do it on your own. No, do not do that. So first things first, separate bank account, separate credit card. That is a non-negotiable for any business. All business expenses go over here, hopefully on a business credit card that you're also earning miles and points on, and then you're paying it off from your business checking account constantly. And you are hiring a small business tax professional who is going to get you set up for deducting your home office expenses, for doing all of the different expenses. And you're going to use something like the Paper and Spark spreadsheets. You are not going to use QuickBooks. Do not use QuickBooks if all you were doing is a micro small business. It's not worth it. It is way too complicated. There's way too much going on. You don't need it. I thought I needed it because that first accountant told me, yeah, QuickBooks is what you use for small business accounting. Yeah, for like maybe a bigger small business, if you're one person in your basement, you do not need QuickBooks, okay? You need a spreadsheet. You need this spreadsheet. I adore this spreadsheet. My new tax lady adores this spreadsheet because of how well it is laid out. It's got formulas built in that do the math for you. Please, please believe me when I tell you, you do not need QuickBooks. You need a good spreadsheet and a good accountant or tax lady. Our tax lady this year managed to find us like $3,000 or $4,000 of deductions and savings that I had no idea existed before. I wish I would have started using her right from the first. Do not try to do your own taxes. She cost me $300, and instead of when I tried to do my taxes, I owed the government almost $20,000. After she did my taxes, I only owed the government like $10,000, okay? Which I know is still a lot, but you have to pay taxes on a small business. Trust me, it was worth it to pay her that $300 to save $10,000 that had to go to the government. All right, number 3 is my business name. While I love my business name is so generic and boring and doesn't really make sense. It started as a sewing blog, so it made sense there. And then when I started the business side of it, I just kept it going. I wish going back, I would have put more thought into my business name. I wouldn't have chosen what I have now. I kind of want to change it, but I have so much invested. I have so much brand recognition built up in my local community and online of my brand that I feel like it would be so hard to change, but I really kind of want to. And when someone sees your brand name on Etsy at a market or something like that, they have about 2 seconds to look at that and realize what you're selling. If you look at my name, so Uprising Handmade, you don't know what I'm selling. You don't know that my focus is on high quality deluxe double snap book sleeves and that all of my merch focuses around the bookish community. So I have, you know, big beautiful banners that say my business name, but it's not connecting to my customer and it's not telling my customer who I am, what I sell, why they should be interested in stopping at my booth. So when you're choosing your name, make sure you're asking yourself, like, what do I make? Who do I make it for? What is the feeling I want someone to get when they're looking at it? What is this going to look like as a URL? What is it going to look like as a really big banner? What is it going to look like on my product tags? Is it quick, snappy, and memorable enough that if someone just sees your business name, they immediately know who you are and what you sell? All right, so those are the 3 things that I would completely do differently if I were starting my handmade business from scratch. We're going to build our Shopify and our Etsy at the same time. We're going to get a really good accountant and a really good tax lady, and we're going to think really hard about our business name, okay? Very important things. I want to honestly say that out of all of them, though, the biggest one is your bookkeeping. Your bookkeeping makes or breaks the difference in your business. And also make sure you're paying yourself. Even if you're like a teeny tiny business, pay yourself. I use the Profit First method, not sponsored. I legitimately own this book. I own the audiobook too. I probably go through it again once a year just like as a refresher and to remind myself about why it is so important to pay myself from the business. But really, there's no point in doing this if you're not paying yourself. If you want it to be a business, you have to pay yourself. My business has paid off student loans. It has allowed us to move to a big, beautiful home. It has taken us to Disney World multiple times. It's done so much for us, and that is because I pay myself. I make sure my business is working for me and then I am not working for my business. 5 years in and I am still actively making improvements and changes in my business. I don't think you ever should stop growing and learning. So if you are farther ahead in your business journey and have tips or tricks to share with me, I would love to hear those too. Or if you have any small business related topics that you want someone who is a little bit farther ahead to chat about, let me know. I want every handmade business to succeed, and if I can share any knowledge that I may have gained with you to make that happen, let's do it.